Boys, this is RMTS 150. This is an episode I never thought was going to happen. Um, Woody's giving me dirty looks already. It's fun. Um, so this is like one of my dream guests from when I started, actually, because you were the reason I started YouTube, which is kind of the cool thing. It kind of comes full circle. So I thought that was nice. But thank you for coming on, man. It's
How funny would it be if I just left right now? Like,
yeah, I think that would be the way to do it. I'd be like, we got Woody on, guys. We made it. We got him for 5 seconds worth. It's great.
What's up, man?
No, I thought it was really cool. So you were confused why my chair was plugged in. So when I started PK originally, my aunt all of a sudden was like, okay, guys, I'm going to get Zach a present. What should I get? And I was like, well, with my neck and stuff, having heat and stuff makes everything kind of easier to just be able to be comfortable. Like I'm never able to be cold. Anything lower than like 50, 60 degrees, I get really fucking uncomfortable. So my chair has heat and massage in it, which is fantastic some days, and some days it feels really weird. But
yeah, you got me thinking. You've got that like belter from The Expanse physique. Is this a reference you get? I'm not sure. Anyway,
nope,
they're very
I've never
tall.
Seen The Expanse.
They grow. All right, so there's this basically race of humans that lives in a low gravity environment, and they all get to be like 7 foot tall and pretty skinny.
Yeah.
So Zach.
Yeah, exactly.
They also rock some pretty silly haircuts sometimes, which you've been known to do. Anyway,
yep.
I wonder, you must have more surface area than most people, right?
Yeah.
Like just
definitely.
compared to the core, might cool you off.
No, it probably does a little bit. And the availability for my muscles to move in my neck and my shoulder make it so much easier. So it just, with having, I don't think I ever told you. So I developed thoracic outlet syndrome.
Okay.
Which is like the thing that Markel Fultz developed and a whole bunch of other basketball players developed from working at the store before I joined you guys. And I ended up having to have neck surgery and everything else, which is kind of why I was like, okay, nope, I got to transfer to online and try and figure out how to do a different thing.
What they do to your neck?
So thoracic outlet syndrome is compression around your collarbone. So the veins, nerves, and arteries get compressed around there. You can have one, you can have all three. It kind of just changes depending on what's going on. I ended up developing all three. So they had to remove a muscle in my neck. You can see like the hole.
Yeah.
They removed my pec minor and my top rib. So that way I'm able to kind of have blood flow from my neck through to my shoulder.
You and Marilyn Manson.
Backwards.
Nah,
I wish I could.
My story. I'll tell it the way I want to. Yes.
Exactly. But yeah, so all of that happened. I still get the nerve migraines and stuff like that, but it's like 60% better. So I'm not passing out every day. I'm not blacking out every day. So,
but seriously, the pec minor and that neck muscle, don't you use those? Like, are you weak at certain movements?
It weakens when the muscles are on my neck tighten up. It's hard to turn right. Like I can't look right at all some days. The pec
what's that over there?
I haven't really. Yeah, no. Like if my neck swells, you'll see I'll look like Brock Lesnar. The size of my neck swell like a motherfucker.
I bet people mix you up.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I get really all the time. Except I don't have a dick on my chest. Big difference. So it's really hard to look right some days when that swells. But other than that, it's kind of like normal on that. The pec minor, I haven't really seen anything. Like I've been lifting since the day I got out of surgery because of crazy shit that fucking happened. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, why is it when you're doing our show, there's always babies crying and dogs barking, but for yours, the audio is perfect?
Because I don't give you guys audio. If you guys want audio, I will mute everything and make sure everything disappears.
Well, it's my dog that ends up going crazy.
Yeah, I've never had the availability.
Is that a husky?
Yeah.
I like them. They're talkers, though. Does the thing talk all the time? That's what they do on YouTube.
Only when I'm podcasting. She is quiet. She just kind of whines for everything. So it's like, oh, happy whining, sad, food, going out. She just whines. But then she comes over here and just starts beating me up just when the stream happens. Fortunately, it's summer, so she is out. She's tired. It's done. We'll see if she makes an appearance.
Where in the country do you live without doxing yourself?
I live near Seattle.
Oh, okay.
That's all right known, but yeah.
I would just think
I like that respect where it's like without doxing.
Yeah,
it's easy to get in trouble that way.
Right? Depending on who you're talking to, right? But yeah, it was. I would think I'd really enjoy a husky, but in North Carolina, animal
Mhm.
cruelty or borderline thing would
Yeah.
melt.
Go swimming every single day. Just throw the dog in the pool, hang out.
A wet husky is not what you want, especially a
that doesn't
permanently
sound like
wet
fun. But
husky.
yeah, no.
She gets
I was just
damp if
thinking it
it's
was.
humid out. Like they just accumulate
Ugh.
moisture.
That's a
So
problem.
what you're saying is huskies and fat people have same problems. They just get moist whenever it's warm, and all of a sudden,
Catching strays over here.
fucking hell. So I always thought it was weird because to me you came across as like the first dad of the internet because of, and I think you kind of took that role on once you realized you were like the step above everybody age wise, and you were kind of like, guys, kind of corralling everybody into that. What kind of made you stick to that kind of ideology, like when you started?
Oh heck. I don't know. It just kind of worked out that way. It's funny how it's evolved to me because I was 36 when I was this grandfather of the internet and impossibly old. Now so many people who saw me that way are Kyle's 39, 38, something like that.
You're the same age as my mom, so it's weird.
Yeah, all right. So the age that was impossibly old no longer seems so old to the people who are approaching it themselves. But I don't know how like Mail Monday and such really originated. People were, maybe you've seen this too, when you first are on the rise on YouTube, you get ungodly amounts of praise. People just think you're the bee's knees. They haven't seen any of your flaws. They probably think I'm that guy in the video game with extreme athleticism and such. And they were asking me questions like, how do you do it? How are you? You look buff. You seem like you got your act together. What are you doing? And I would have all these questions. So I just started answering them because it seemed like the kind thing to do. And then it became my most popular series and probably the thing I'm known for, second to PKA, the whole Mail Monday thing. But it was just a way I was answering every message. YouTube used to have a messaging kind of email thing.
I miss it so much. It's so stupid they got rid of because I could actually directly talk to my fans, and then they just said nope, no more.
Yeah,
Or even
just
directly
removed it.
talk to people that you want to work with. Like, unless that person follows you on Twitter or you're like, DM me, and then all of a sudden it's all found out. How do you get in touch with anybody without people knowing anymore? It's like, find an email. What? That sucks.
So people would just hit me with all these questions and a lot of advice stuff. And I guess I let it be known that I responded to every single email that I got. I did that for a while, like all the way up to like 100,000 subscribers. And I don't know. I just started answering them on Mail Monday and then fell into that role. I don't know. It seemed like a nice way to give back a little bit, but it was a win-win.
I think it is.
Turned out.
Like you have a generation that I'm a part of where a lot of us don't have dads. And not only are you a dad and you care about the people that are watching you, but you also have that availability of like, I'm not just a dad meeting your level of what your dad would have been. You're achieving at a different level that most people never will, or like really kind of aspire to, like with how wealthy you are and how far you've gone. You've done things that most people really kind of strive for. And that's, I think, why everybody clung to you so nicely was you're the goal. Not just kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable for me to talk about this sort of thing.
I'm trying to be comfort.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, what do you say? I've got my flaws for sure. For the longest time, people thought I never said bad words, which I try not to. But anyone who's seen PKA knows that I sometimes do, or goes to the Hangouts and has bad audio. Has probably heard a bad word or two.
Swapping to fup for a little bit was hilarious.
Say that again.
What the flip and fup and trying to come up with like G-rated curse words were hilarious. I love that.
Dad thing.
Okay?
I still do that. My son gets in trouble for saying words more aggressive than heck. And oh my God, he'll drop the heck you or you hecking this or that. And I've started copying him on that. It's funny. But
it's hilarious.
But yeah, the whole mentoring thing, it just really started as trying to be nice to somebody.
Yeah,
Nice
and I
to
think it's
everybody.
also like the age and the advice that they wouldn't hear otherwise from other people. We're just like,
Yeah.
this is just solid, and then that's kind of worth sticking around for. So it's like, oh, a bad thing. What's this old man doing on YouTube? That's not our space anymore. It's like, wait, we kind of need that guidance though, so it worked out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice of you to say. Yeah, and also, like, I don't know, I didn't shy off from any of the questions that you might be embarrassed to ask your father.
Me and
That's
my
also really
wife
good.
loved running to watch Mail Monday every Monday. Like when I came home from school, she's like, "Woody released a video," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's Monday. We're gonna go watch this, right?" Yes. Like
That's funny.
when we were in the recovery room is when we found PKA. Actually, it was
Recovery
oldest.
from baby stuff?
Her C-section. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, neck?
Yeah.
No, wait, that'd be way too late.
Nope. That's like 5 years ago. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, when we were in the recovery room with my oldest, we were trying to find content to watch because we just watched YouTube. I'm like, what is there to watch on TV in 2011? There's not very much unless you're paying for cable, and those hospital TVs, horrible.
Even now, I watch a lot more YouTube than any other streaming service.
It's always available, and you can change exactly what the fuck you want to watch when you want to watch it, and that to me is just so nice.
Everything is there. No, not everything, of course, but like all the amateur content is there. And I just, these to me are the 3 keys of making a good YouTube video. This is it. Connect, educate, and entertain. That's it. If you hit all 3 of those, you've made a great video. Connect, educate, and entertain. If you hit 2 of them, you made a fine video. And if you hit 1 or less, then you made a bad video. You should consider redoing it, right? So when I go to these guys on YouTube, and it doesn't matter what I'm watching, I could be watching some guy ride a motorcycle on dirt roads. I could be watching reef tank content. I could be watching some guy mow his yard with a tractor. But if he hits 2 or 3 of those things, connect, educate, and entertain, I'm into it. And that's not available on Netflix. The people on Netflix don't connect with me, and they may educate and entertain, but one of those legs is always missing by default. And sometimes the content I'm looking for is the trio.
And it seems like homemade content, and regardless of what level of homemade content you're talking about, it makes it more human. Like so many things that you watch on TV, you're like, that's unattainable. Like regardless of if it's some zombie movie or, a documentary, it feels like it's disconnected from you at some level because, you can't reach out and touch it. You could have always messaged Woodysgamertag and he answered. Like, that to me, I think is such a huge difference. You're interacting with these people on a daily basis, sometimes if you're lucky. And there's such a big difference.
Yeah, and the length of video fits too, right? Sometimes you want something that's under 60 seconds, sometimes 15 minutes. I'm watching something right now that's 5 hours long. And they have it all.
Pretty big.
And to me, it's so nice to be able to turn on some sort of Let's Play or something like that and just kind of turn off and go to sleep. And whenever it turns off because who cares? Like you're not going to pick it up tomorrow. You just want something to make your brain work enough for you to fall asleep.
Yeah. And you can skip around. I like Twitch. Yeah. Sometimes I watch Twitch, but it sometimes it feels like you're watching 3 hours of Twitch for a really good 20 minutes worth, and the other was filler while you're waiting. If that was a YouTube video, you can skip it.
I love streaming just to interact with people. That's the only reason I would stream is like, if there's people in the chat, I'll hang out. If there's not people in the chat, why am I here? I'm streaming because I want to stream, but I'm streaming because I want the direct connection or direct interaction. I'm not streaming because I just want to create content. Bye, Verlis.
Yeah, your people must like you more than mine do. I stream, and it's funny. I want to connect with them. I want them to all be on friendly terms with me. But my streams are toxic as heck. It can be a little draining.
I started streaming probably 3 or 4 weeks before I fully joined you guys. And I was full-time. I got affiliate in a week because Taylor rated me.
Okay.
And I got so excited. It was so nice. My computer crashed. I'm like, what the fuck happened? So I
don't know.
I don't know what happened.
Wait, did everyone go down or was it just me?
No, just you.
Fuck.
Just you.
We kept talking.
But it was so cool because it's like, okay, now there's people to interact with. Ask me the questions because it's nice. It's regardless of if I'm behind the scenes or not. It's nice to have the face to understand why I'm making the joke that I'm making, because I don't just put it in a chat. I try and put it on screen in some way to rib you guys. And if you don't know me, then you can't understand the joke or you can't understand why my ADHD mind worked that way. And that to me is kind of the nicer part, which is why I talk and interact so much.
Yeah. I was thinking about like that connect, educate, entertain. I think that's a big reason why my channel took off because I just did that passively. I kind of was like the first person to bring Pokemon to people because like, oh, competitive Pokemon. You'd be shocked how deep and complex and the terms and like the million different game mechanics you need to do. So everyone's like, oh, I don't want to play Pokemon because some sweat is going to style on me 24/7. So I was like, okay, let me entertain. Let me make this like an actual thing where it's just like analytics, numbers, boring, whatever. But so I like try to educate, and then my guide content really just started snowballing the channel. It's really cool.
That is cool.
That's what's so interesting about a lot of things is it seems like a lot of the early days stuff like that was just here, break down this. You have T-Mart, you have Xbox Ahoy, you have Burles and Pokemon. In all games, it seems like there was one or two people that kind of did that, and they're the top of the top of everything for such a long time. And it's so weird to look at.
How's his Let's Play content doing, T-Marts? Is he still killing it, or is he still going hard at it? Don't know.
Oh, I think he's going hard at it.
Yeah.
It seems like he's like, I'm just going to play every game on camera and whatever works. And he's just like, it's going to happen. That dude has hit a level where he's just, I'm relaxed now. And it's cool to watch because you see the hunger at the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now what do I do next? He swapped over to Let's Plays, and then that blew up. And at some point you just gotta be like, yeah, well, you got this. You have the sauce, you know what you're doing. And at some point people aren't going to stop searching T-Mart in this game, and blows up again. It's 100, 200,000 views every single episode for every video. That's nice.
What he does?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's where you want to be.
Last time I checked, like 6-7 months ago. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That level of victory lap must be nice. Just
right?
Relaxing and hanging out.
Dude's got no stress. So I texted him to come on the show, but he didn't get back to me. I should ping him again. But
he was on the subreddit. If you want me to reach out to him there, so that way it's a different way, and maybe he can see.
He was on the subreddit.
Yeah.
What was
people were commenting about him wanting him to come on. It was right before Richard Ryan. They're like, oh, this sounds cool. I wonder how T-Mart's doing. And they posted, and he actually responded to them. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll reach out. It was literally the same week that you're like, oh, maybe we can have him.
Yeah. Like, oh, that's about when I texted him.
Nope. I feel like I'm overstepping. I'll wait and I'll ask if you want me to.
Yeah, I'd like to have T-Mart on. I want to ask him about CSGO. Afterwards, so he was on the show, what, 3-4 years ago, something like that?
It was right around when I started. He was one of the first people that I was like, kind of, oh wow, this is weird.
So right after we stopped recording, we were texting back and forth, and I was like, man, I wanted to ask you about the CSGO stuff. T-Mart's my friend. I am not an unbiased guy. I'm not going to hold his feet to the fire. And I was going to ask him this, and I will next time he's on. Like, hey, every time I've been in hot water, like some sort of YouTube drama, what I really wanted people to know was like all the facts. The people who were most angry at me didn't have the story straight. What is it about the CSGO thing that you wish people understood? And just get it rolling from there. I wonder what he'd hit it back with.
It's weird. A lot of the things that we've talked about privately or privately spoke in the chat about, it's like, okay, this is a good question, but it's like, do you burn the bridge or fear burning the bridge with somebody that you see as a friend or an equal because you want the content? And it's like, it's hard to kind of step on those toes and see exactly.
He told me that would have been perfect. He's like, he wished I had asked that. Yeah. So
I think T-Mart, with how close of friends you guys were, I think that's acceptable. There's sometimes where we're talking in the chat and we're like, oh, we can't say that.
Yeah.
You know what? It's just interesting because there's a lot of things. I don't know if you know I think he's a YouTuber. He's on TikTok and Twitch and a whole bunch of other stuff. Sketch. Have you heard about him yet? Have you seen him?
He rings a bell. What's his story?
Okay, so I'll lay out the outline of who he is first. So he started streaming like NFL and Madden content and stuff like that. And he's slightly different than a lot of people. To me, and this is not me putting it on him, it's what I kind of can see. He's neurodivergent in some way. He's ADHD, autism, somewhere in there. He kind of like unmasks on stream a little bit. And he just like does weird and different things, and people kind of see the humanity in it, and he's exploded. Recently, they dug through his past and found out that he was posting pictures on OnlyFans. Of doing boy content. And I was like,
Okay.
guys, this isn't that big of a deal. Whether it's him or not, it's not a big deal.
Consenting adult boy content.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. All good.
I'm like, what is this? Like, we just outed Dr. Disrespected. That's a bad thing. This is something that's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have pictures online. Wings has pictures online. Most people have pictures online. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought back to it, and I remembered the episode of PK where I Fly Illini, and that story came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, guys, things aren't as bad as they used to be.
I agree.
Because
I was thinking different.
They're
time.
like, oh, we're going to cancel him. We're going to cancel him. He wanted to do things like, you know, the autistic ADHD mind of like, oh, everybody's coming at me now. Now I just don't want to be a part of this at all. Like he ran and he's like, I don't want to be a part of any of this. FaZe Banks and the FaZe guys messaged him. He's like, guys, come back.
That might have been where you might have heard about it, Woody, because it was the picture of the two shoes and the glasses. Like, he just left that and just fled the house when all this information came out. And that's what made like the drama so interesting. And then all the FaZe boys were like, this is nothing. Come back, dude.
That was nice. So did they have a relationship before, the FaZe boys and Sketch?
I guess they were talking with him for probably like a month and a half on camera and stuff. And he's done a lot of large podcasts and stuff like that. But it's really interesting to watch this kid because he's like, he's kind of demasking himself to the world almost. He's showing the raw version of him when, you know, most people don't get that. But
yeah, that sounds cool.
He came out the next day and he's like, guys, I want to talk about things. I took it in the ass a couple times, but you know, is what it is. I didn't think I would be having this stream. I didn't think I'd be doing this, but my friends like FaZe Banks caught me and told me that it's okay, regardless of what I am. I'm like, yes, it doesn't fucking matter because it doesn't. Like, and like thinking back to the iFly shit, it's like, why? It doesn't make sense. That's how you react to it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. The problem was with iFly and I think his name was iRobot or something. One of Keemstar's friends contacted his superior officer in the Navy and ruined his career. He was going to be a pilot, and that all came crashing down.
That was how it was back in those days too.
Yeah,
and it's crazy to me. Everybody says, "Oh, gaming is so negative," or culture is becoming so negative and so toxic to cancel people. This is the flip of that. And it honestly is like we're seeing the validation of somebody, regardless of what he is or why he did something. He did something that isn't negative, but we used to take as negative, and now we're showcasing it as it's okay. Support your fucking friend, you fucking dipshit. And that's nice. We're not fucking letting people fly anymore. We're actually holding people accountable. And I thought we were going the wrong way for such a long fucking time.
I mean, people used to dox each other like it was just playing tennis. You're like, you get doxed, you get doxed. That was everything.
I get doxed.
Yeah, I just assume I'm permadoxed. I don't know. I haven't Googled myself in a while.
I'm too scared too, because it's like, I know I am, so just, it's your permadox. Don't need to know.
It's hell. It's hell. But as a whole, man, like, it's weird. It's weird because being canceled now is not necessarily as bad of a thing as it is. And they just devalued being canceled. Oh, we're going to cancel Sketch because of this. Who cares? You just removed all of the validity to this entire thing now.
Yeah. I wonder how iFly 99 is doing now. I wonder what he's up to. Where his career in life.
Last time you guys talked about it on PK, he posted on the subreddit. I'll look back tonight or tomorrow. And if he did, I'll find it. But I believe he posted on the subreddit when you guys brought him up last time, like 2 years ago-ish.
But you don't recall the details of what he's up to?
No, I don't.
Oh, yeah. By the way, he did solo content. I feel like I should call that out.
Yeah, he was like jerking off on cam or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Yep. He was in really good shape, too. He was fit.
Wasn't he like doxxed by the fucking doorknob, if I remember what you said correctly?
Dude, yes. He had... The doorknob part, I wasn't convinced by. People recognized the door and the doorknob, but it was like a shiny brass doorknob and a door with like 6 panels. Not too different than the one behind me. I'm like, that's every generic door ever. But he also had
He posted willing to be a guest 2 years ago.
Okay. He also had a purple couch. And That was where, like, at least in my mind, it went from that's not him to, oh, purple couches are kind of rare. That it
Yeah, it's like
matched.
Kyle's red couch. Once you get to the weird colors off of black and brown and some tans, all of a sudden it's kind of
maybe
more
a
unique.
gray. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But and even red to me is more common than purple. Purple. How many people?
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
never sat on a purple couch.
Like maybe one of those chintzy Walmart futons that you get a weird color of. Like I've gotten
Maybe.
a blue one of those.
Blue's not purple though. Like
No.
Yeah, purple.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that's a next step. It just really is.
Wow.
So
that's a harder difficulty than my docs, because like I did a house tour and I didn't think about that, because I'm like, I bought my first house off YouTube, guys. I'm happy to celebrate. And my haters, they were like, oh, this is easy. It's free. But also my fans. One of my fans showed up on Halloween. I wasn't like, I'm not. They might be watching this because like I met them in the area and it was just like, yo, you're that guy. I'm like, yeah. And then we hung out for a bit. And then like he just showed up at my house. I was like, he's like, oh, I actually toured this house. And then when I saw it in the house tour, I knew exactly. And I was like, okay, what's up, dude?
I did a house tour
He's
in my
cool.
current house, but in my Apex house, the previous one, I never did a house tour, but I did enough videos that people put it together. Anyway, when I built this Minecraft server, somebody recreated my home perfectly in Minecraft.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh darn, I guess it's all out there. Some people are taking note.
Even has the address on the mailbox. Wow.
Well,
That's
I think
dedication.
it did. Yeah. Like the address
I wonder
wasn't
if
hard
he
to find.
upgraded the bathroom after the remodel.
Oh, no, this was the last house, the Minecraft server, but yeah.
Oh. Does that get weird to a point? I saw this conspiracy theory, I think this morning. And it's like, guys, things are getting weird, and most people really don't realize how weird it genuinely is. We've had cars for Google driving around the entire world every day, always. Think of how well they have the world sculpted. Think of how well that you can go on Google Maps and you can sit on a road and all of a sudden you see everything that's there and has been there. You could go back 5 years and it'd still be there. Think of how many cameras are in your house. Think of how many times you have your phone around and how many times they've looked through your room, if they have that control. Is there a chance that they're trying to build something so that way we can just be in a computer? And I'm like, this is too fucking weird. Like, there's logic to it, but I don't want to fucking hear it. This is getting to a point where it's weird.
Yeah, I remember England had like pretty much these closed loop cameras all over in public.
Yeah.
If you existed outside in London, for example, you could just consider yourself on film. And I was like, wow, that level of privacy invasion is wild. Now, I think we're that way. Do you think you can walk around Charlotte, Philadelphia, New York and not be filmed? It's there. And it's all
now
there.
with how many doorbell cameras and everything else are around too. How many crimes do you guys hear about that are like, oh yeah, a ring served?
The
Ring
neighbor
doctors.
across the street with Ring got them.
Yeah, that happens too. Yep.
Yeah. I
So
saw a video
honestly-
earlier. It was like, yeah, so my tires were getting slashed and this guy keyed my car. The Ring doorbell across the road was the person who caught them. I'm like, what the fuck? How the fuck does this work?
Did you recall why, like, who was the guy that did it? Motivation? Do you know?
They were two teenagers. I guess they didn't really have a necessary reaction to do it. They just kind of were fucking about and going about and doing things. You know, normal teenage shit that
being
people didn't get in
destructive.
trouble for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now do.
I don't know. Did you ever slash a tire as a teenager?
No.
Me neither.
I was a weird kid. I was a really weird kid.
Hard to believe.
So my level of ghetto-ness and doing shit stopped directly at 11 or 12, and then I moved. So I lived in the ghetto of my hometown, which is Catskill, New York. It's where Mike Tyson trained and kind of grew back up into being the fighter he was. So it was like 50-50. Even though I'm upstate New York, it's mixed, completely mixed. So my friends were dealing drugs and everything else. Like my best friend's brother, like if we go 5 years after when I left Catskill, my best friend's brother is now in prison for accessory to murder. Like as a whole, I was going down a very, 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 very dark path. And how I turned out is kind of odd. But like, I don't get it. I didn't do that shit. I fought. I threw rocks. I broke my arm. I didn't destruct other property. I just fucked about and did whatever I wanted to.
That
Like
yeah,
even my friends didn't break shit. We didn't steal from people. It was all just we had the family, and that was just the group of people that was around, and nobody fucked with us.
yeah, but just doing dangerous stuff was kind of my thing as a teenager,
Yeah.
but I didn't really damage people's property.
I was just a goody, too goody. I don't want to ever have to talk to a cop because I was in the wrong place, kind of thing. But I did some parkour. That was about it.
I saw these. There's a YouTube short today, and there were two girls who were swept out to sea, and it just happened to be that a passing fisherman they're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" They're like, "Help!" But he picks up the girls and puts them in the boat. Cool, they're saved. But I was watching. I was like, I was them. I've been swept out to sea before. Because
I would have died if I couldn't touch.
yeah, I left out a thing, but our jet skis broke in the inlet, and it was a bad decision. I knew the jet ski didn't start, and that if I fell, I would be in trouble. And that's exactly what happened, because you can't not fall on a jet ski. It wouldn't ride all day and never fall. And swept out.
Oh yeah, man. So I grew up in Florida, like Miami, so we were always at the beach, and it's funny because you hear all these things about like rip currents and rip tides and all that. And I'm like, wait, now that I know what that is, I've been sucked out a couple of times. I was like fit enough to where I was like, oh wait, I just like naturally dealt with it, or I had my boogie board or something. So it's like, okay, it's weird out there. And then with jet skis, when on vacation, my girlfriend at the time, she was just like wanted to do something really excited, so she cranked it, and we were in Lake Powell, Utah. So just like all these rocks and cliff faces, she just cranked it, headed straight into a rock face, and then tried to like cut it at the last second. She did it too late, and we crashed into the wall.
Really?
So she broke her foot because she tried to put her foot out to stop it at like 40 miles per hour and just like crumpled her foot. There was a boat driving nearby because everyone's there vacationing, and they like could see and hear the crash, and they ran over to me because they thought my head smashed into the wall. And I was like, upon reflection, I was probably like that close to dying and have my head get smashed. But yeah, like jet skis, very easy to get hurt on or fall off or whatever.
So how'd she handle the broken foot? Did she self-extract and get back to driver?
Well, they helped us. So they gave us like all the towels on their boat, just wrap up her bloody foot, and then the jet ski still worked. So yeah, we went to the parents. We're like, we're hurt, and then we took the big speedboat to the marina to the doctor, and then they got it bandaged up, gave her antibiotics, still got infected, and then like we just
bloody
ran
foot
out.
Though. Was it a compound fracture? Was the bone sticking out?
I didn't look. I didn't care to ask. Probably something showed.
Yeah, especially if it's bloody. My broken arm.
Well, also if you
the
crumple
worst
your
thing.
foot, but the thing is, that it got smashed between the jet ski and the wall.
Oh,
So,
true.
yeah, bad, very bad.
When I broke my arm, the doctor's like, "This is the most gross thing I've ever seen at all that wasn't fully through the skin." I was riding my skateboard, and there was like a hill and then a 90-degree turn, and then it slowly sloped down into Main Street. And I hit a rock right after the corner. I was going probably like 15 miles an hour on a skateboard, and I flipped. I put my arms out as I was rolling, and it snapped my arm in two. My arm had a U in it, and
A U.
as I rolled, as I rolled and stopped, I came up and I sat up, and there was a car sitting there. I was like this close to being hit by a car, and I've never I have a very good recollection of people's voices and people's faces and stuff like that. I've never seen this guy ever again. I've never heard his voice. And this dude was just randomly walking around in the ghetto of Catskill. He's like, guys, what? Stand around him. He'll save him. I'm like, what the fuck? Where'd this French Swedish guy come from? It's walking around like the ghetto of a city. I don't understand. But so I sat up. I walked over to my best friend's house. His mom runs out. Zach, what the fuck did you do? I'm like, I fell. She's like, your mom's going to kill you. And your mom's going to kill me because you're sitting in front of my house instead of going home. Go home. I'm like, what? Why is she going to kill you? I broke my arm. Like, she's like, you're not supposed to be doing this. Okay, I'll go home. Like,
so you're in shock at this point. Do you just pick up your arm, self-splint, and walk home?
No, not self-splint. My arm's flopping.
Right, but you're holding it, right? You're guarding it. And
yeah. So we lived up on the third floor, and I walk up the inside staircase of this old Victorian house, and I sit down in the living room, And my stepdad looks at me. He's like, Zach, what's wrong? You good? I was like, no, I'm okay. Don't worry about it. I was like, I need ice, and I'm okay.
Lots of it.
Yeah. So he hands me a bag of peas, which is the funnier part. And I sit it underneath my arm, and the bag of peas completely fit underneath the U of my arm. Like it was a
So
big.
when you say a
puffy-
U, your forearm like
my forearm
went back
went
the
like
other
this.
way.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a complete U in it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
I'm
just
sitting in this big
hinted.
comfy chair, and my hand was touching the chair, my elbow was touching the chair, and a bag of peas was underneath the U.
Hmm.
My mom just got done working a 12-hour shift, and this was like at 10 o'clock in the morning. My stepdad's like, guys, I'm leaving. I'll see you later. I have to go pick up my stepdaughter across the river. I'll be back in like an hour. He came back 5 hours later. So he went to go wake up my mom for her shift and tell her to get ready for work and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, Zach, how'd you break your arm? So I explained it to her. First thing, as she walked out of the door, because that's where the chair was, right in front of her bedroom door. She's like, Zach, how'd you break your arm? I explained it to her. Why did nobody wake me up? I'm like, well, he went to go get a stepdaughter, and she looks at him. She's like, you left him with a broken arm to go do something? Like his arm is shattered.
This is bad parenting.
Oh, there's lots of bad parenting stories.
Yeah,
Lots
yeah.
of them.
Ooh, you get to pick one at the end.
Yeah, you can pick one at the end. It's fun.
Okay.
I have 140 stories up until like 5 years ago that I wrote down and serialized. By ADHD is a bitch. Gotta love the OCD
This
though.
is the therapy podcast.
It essentially is. It's fun.
Mhm.
So we go to the hospital, and they're like, "So, Mrs. Brown, we don't do local anesthetic here because we've had it fail 6 times in the past week, especially on children under 18. So we are
Mhm.
not going to give him anything other than oral medication, and you're going to have to hold him down
To set your arm?
to set my arm."
Okay.
So they walk in, they're like, Zach, you have a complete fracture of your radius, and you have a green stick fracture of your ulna. Your
Mhm.
radius is your big bone. I had a complete fracture, which is bones are completely separated. Green stick fracture is like if you think of a green stick. So if you go out to a tree and a stick just
yeah.
it splintered and fractured, but wasn't broken completely through, like a green piece of wood.
Even though it was U-shaped. Okay.
Yes, which is what held the U shape.
Oh,
You got to
Okay,
think the
yeah.
bone was fully together still. They
I've had the
snap.
same injury.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very common one.
Mhm.
So they look at my mom. They're like, Zach, your mom's going to hold you down. And I don't know if you've picked up on this at all. My mom is not a very small woman. She, at this
Mhm.
point, was about 450, 475. They're like,
She's been training her whole life for this hold down.
Yes, she's going to hold you down. So I'm like, fuck, Mom, you owe me 2 video games for this. And that was my way to kind of like argue everything, is like, if you
Mhm.
want me to do something, you're going to like bribe me with it, because there's no way I'm doing this without like some sort of positive reinforcement. This is hell.
Mhm.
So my mom, they're like, put both of your hands on his shoulder and that should hold him down. And before she even fully set her feet or anything, she put her hands on my shoulder. They take my hand and snap it without even counting down or anything. I literally lifted my mom's pressure up and almost swung at them. They're like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, well, the fuck is this? And I feel my
I
arm
hate
go limp.
ambush medicine. That's the fucking worst. When doctors or nurses think the best way to handle this is to surprise you. I'm not
And for
down.
some reason, they let the dude that set my arm be the one that put my arm in a plaster cast instead of fiberglass, which I have no idea why they did that either.
Mhm.
And surprisingly, that was where that night calmed down. My mom bought me Guitar Hero and everything kind of relaxed. Couldn't play Guitar Hero. I don't know why I chose that game as the game that I got at that point, but that's where that relaxed. It was fucking hell though. I ended up breaking that plaster cast off somebody's forehead because they called my mom fat.
Noted. I won't do that.
Oh, it's complete. I'm a different person. It's really weird how that single mom ideology sticks for so long until you realize that there was a problem. And when you
Mhm.
realize that there was problems, it kind of goes away.
Yeah, that's what I had. Where it's like you grow up, it's like, wait a second, they didn't do the best adulting decisions, and then like that retrospect's like, oh, and this is how I deal with it, understand, grow up, and then don't do that. All right, I think I'm good now.
Mm. Yeah, so
So
I broke my radius and ulnar bones too, and I got into a car accident. I was sleeping, and
Yeah.
without getting deep into the mechanics, the car started rolling. Right, so on one of the rolls, it landed on the roof and broke all the windows because the roof like lowered a few inches. And then another time, it was landing on as it kept going around on the driver's side door. So I posted my arm out the window because in my mind, I was going to fall out the door. I wasn't. I was wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah.
But the instinct was to stop myself from falling out that window. And that's when I broke these two bones. And to move the story along, the ambulance takes me to the hospital. They put my arm like this in like a 90-degree bend.
Mhm.
And they put my fingers in this, like, the Chinese finger traps where you sort of put them in, but you can't pull them apart. That's how they hold your hand with some weight here. And as they have it set up, but they're not setting it yet, they go to put me under anesthesia. It was funny how you told your story because my anesthesia failed. They wanted me to count backwards from 100. Now, I've done this a bunch of times. Even at 17, It wasn't my first surgery. And I would do this thing where I would like try to beat the anesthesia. It's not beatable, right? Count back from 100. If you make it to 97, you've done well. I'm in the low 90s. I'm in the mid 80s. I'm in the upper 70s. And like I'm counting backwards. And even I know this isn't
Guys,
going
this is
right.
failing.
But as you read the faces around the room, they're all looking at each other. They have these like panicked looks. And then this like crash cart thing starts busting through the door. It's this double door, and it opens by the cart smashing into it. And they put something over my face, and that's where my memory ends. So I think what happened was the IV had come out of my vein, and they were giving me the anesthesia, but it wasn't going into my blood. So now it's
going
like
into your muscle or
somewhere
out of yours. Yeah.
So they had a complication to account for because it's in me, but it's not really in the bloodstream like they hoped, and that's what's up. So
Yeah, my neck surgery did very similar things to that. They gave me a whole bunch. I believe they gave me ketamine, to calm me down and kind of sedate me to the point where I'm okay enough to go into the room. I go into pre-op and everything else. And I had it dead set. I was like, I want my ribs so that way I can make a necklace out of it because I think it's funny to be like, I have my missing piece. Thought it would be cool. I know, corny, ADHD, OCD as fuck, but whatever.
Sure.
Care. And I make it all the way back to the operating room. I didn't fall asleep to that point. I start talking to my doctor, having a conversation with him because we were, he asked me how the baby was doing because the baby wasn't born yet, but there was complications and stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, this, and this. And I crashed right there, right before I got to ask for my rib. And I was like, I never have the chance. And I'm like, that would have been so cool.
No.
No, it was weird. That was the weirdest one because I was so calm and so confident. They're rolling me through the entire hospital on a fucking stretcher. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. You only see this on TV. You're not supposed to be awake this long. I made it all the way to see my doctor, who I wasn't supposed to see that day at all. And just pops up randomly. I thought it was weird.
I've had a lot of surgeries at this point. I'm like a veteran. I show up with a letter to the people performing the surgery, like the things I'm concerned about, things they should know. Like I come out of anesthesia and I'm nauseous every time. So the typical way they handle it is if you're nauseous, they treat you. And I'm like, can we just preemptively treat this? I promise you that's where we're going to be. It's better for everyone. And they do. And that kind of thing gets you better service. I went in one time. It was an ACL repair. And I just had this probably unfounded fear they were going to open the wrong knee. I was like, I was super nervous about that. So I wrote them a letter. I even took a Sharpie to good knee, bad knee. I labeled them so that when they fixed my knee, there's no chance they get it wrong.
Did you ever write a letter to your kids and wife because you didn't know how things were going to be?
No.
That fear? I did. So before my neck surgery, they gave me a 20% chance to die. They're like, things can happen. This is your neck.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. You're making a bet with workers' comp, essentially. And I understand your bet, you're doing the right thing, but it is a 20% chance. And I walked into it and I'm like, fuck. I just wanted them to know I cared and knew I loved them. And I wanted to give them that level of comfort, especially with the baby not being born yet, that things are okay and this is where I am. So I wrote my kids and my wife a letter, and I wrote my mom a letter, who I wasn't talking to at the time. Like, we were completely out. And it's weird to look back at that, because it's like, from that point forward, I changed. Like, my entire life changed. It's like I wasn't supposed, like, I didn't think I was supposed to make it out almost. That to me was like a determining point of, now this life is a throwaway account. I wasn't supposed to make it. It's okay. Just have fun with it now. But it's weird because I've used your, it's not your day. You don't have to be afraid. I use that same exact speech that you've said
Really?
multiple times to my stepfather, and not my stepfather, my father-in-law the other day, because he had to have throat surgery to have his parathyroid removed. It's like, you don't have to stress. Like, if you want to talk about neck surgery, I'm here. I've got you. I understand. But I'm going to tell you something that kind of helped me through mine. It's not your day.
Right.
The hardest part about it is you going there and falling asleep, knowing that you have to pull the trigger to put your seatbelt in and you have to drive there. That is the hardest part. You don't have to do anything else after that.
I get that it's a little stressful, but it's like being a passenger on the airplane. You just sit back and relax, and everyone else is taking care of this but you. You have to have a job here.
That's great advice. And it's also really something about, like, you're not the one having stress. It's the person that's a millimeter away from killing you that's probably more stressed
every day.
out.
I once did tax returns. I did tax returns. I've done thousands of tax returns. And a guy that I worked with was talking about wisdom teeth removal. And he's like, this is like a 1040 to him. This is nothing, right? He is completely comfortable with this. He does it all day, every day. And something about that was comforting to me, because it was like, oh yeah, geez, it's fucking nothing. 1040.
Yeah. What's interesting?
The wisdom teeth. That was when you were talking about the anesthesia. Yeah, I thought I was gonna beat it, because I'm an 18-year-old kid. I'm full of caffeine and sugar. Nothing can take me down. I'm up all night. Yeah. And then, like, the second she put it on, I just started giggling. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna be fun." I was like, "Watch, 199." Gone.
Yes.
You can't beat it unless it's actually failing, like, unless there's something wrong.
Right.
But no,
right.
Like, if it's doing what's supposed to, impossible.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. It really
I wish
is.
I knew the pre-surgery drugs. One time it was an ACL surgery. Man, it was the greatest pre-surgery experience ever. They asked me, "Are you nervous?" By the way, if anyone ever asks you if you're nervous before a surgery,
The answer is
yes. They're asking, "Would you like to have a good time?" And so I was like, yeah, I'm a little concerned about this. And they're like, "We got you." Oh my God. I started just like praising my wife, talking about, how much I love my kids, and just good times, good vibes. It was the best pre-surgery ever. But I don't know for sure what they gave me. I wish I knew.
I'm like 80% sure it was ketamine. I'm not positive though. It literally, it felt like it turned me off to the point of like having any feeling at all of like fear. It was just, everything's gone. I'm calm. I'm level-headed. I'm having my neck cut open. There is zero reason I should be calm and level-headed going into this. It's so weird.
I wonder what the dose was.
I have no idea. They came in with a full-ass syringe. That's all I know.
Yeah, and probably even if I knew, it wouldn't compare, because I did the ketamine therapy thing, right? Mind Bloom, and but that's an oral thing. So you put it in your mouth like a dissolving tablet. You hold it there for 7 minutes, which is awful. It tastes like a pharmacy, and then you spit it out, and that's that. So I don't know how I would compare that dose to like an injected dose. Like I don't.
Well, I think it would. So, having a little bit of medical background, because I helped my mom with her nursing stuff, it would depend on how many fluid ounces were in what they gave me compared to how many milligrams would be in your pill. And that's the difference, is milligrams per pill compared to milligrams per ounce.
But what they gave you was intravenous, right? So
yes,
everything they gave you was in your bloodstream. Meanwhile, I'm getting whatever my salivatory glands pick up or something, and then I spit it out. I bet if I drank that spit I could get high a second time if I was
You could have
gross
swallowed
enough.
it and it would have been okay.
There were so you're not supposed to swallow it. It
Yeah,
gives you
because
an
they
upset
don't want.
stomach.
Oh, gotcha.
They give you a big enough dose, but they say it gives you an upset stomach and it'll last probably longer than you want it to. So I have accidentally swallowed just a fraction of it, and oh my gosh, it does last a good bit longer, and you do get a good I probably swallowed 10% of it. 90% I spit out, but there's a difference. Yeah, it's way more effective. So
that's what's really interesting about that shit, and it's weird because it literally just turns you off to the point where you're just like, okay, I'm okay now.
mm-hmm.
And the fact that they're exploring so many different things to deal with mental illness and PTSD and everything else, like ketamine, like psilocybin and stuff, it's really interesting to look at how they're actually seeing positive effects.
Yes, and it's I don't know. Sometimes working through depression is hard and it's not that fun, right? You just sit there and confront your demons. But it's like, wait a minute, mushrooms are the answer? Don't threaten me with a good time.
It's hard because so many people want to just stick depression as the answer. Like,
depression is the answer?
Like, oh, I'm depressed, therefore everything is just because I'm depressed. Like, depression is the scapegoat to all of the problems.
Right, the cause.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, brain chemicals. There's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly. So before I was diagnosed with ADHD and treated for ADHD, I dealt with suicidal ideation daily. Do either of you guys know what suicidal ideation is?
I think so. It's when you start thinking it might be a good idea.
Where it's always the answer. So like if you go to the store and you're like, okay, I have to buy this. Do I take this cash register so that way I have to walk outside where it's all fucking gross? Or do I walk to the other side of the store in the AC? Or, I could just die. It's always, regardless of how stupid the situation is, it's always a question. And it's like,
it's always
more of an
C or
impulse. D. Yeah. It makes it always just an impulse of like, let's do this. So that was every question, every answer from the time I was 4 until now.
Goodness.
Like I dealt with this
and
for
you haven't
25
gotten past
years.
It today too.
Not as badly. It's like 90% healed, 95% healed. It's fantastic now compared to where it was.
Mm-hmm.
Until I was diagnosed with ADHD and treated for ADHD with ADHD medication, it was daily. Now it's not at all. And it's like, okay, guys, maybe there's things actually wrong with how you were treated as a kid or how you were dealt with things and how you look at things. Instead of just saying you have depression, how about you actually handle the problems and look at the problems, because that's so much more of the answer than just painting it as depression or painting it as OCD or something like that everybody wants. Oh, I have this card. Guys, I have this card. This card gives me carte blanche not to care.
Yeah. Also, the self-diagnosed ADHD, where it's just like, oh, I lose focus and I procrastinate because ADHD. Nothing you can do about it. It's like, no, there's quite a bit you can do about it.
Yeah, it's so weird, and how much of a difference it was from being suicidal every day, all day. Like I remember your story about how you're like, oh, I was driving down the road and I questioned about turning into a cliff. I'm like,
telephone pole. Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I remember that. I didn't like my job. I didn't like it at all. And it wasn't even suicide. It was, I used to sort of think like if I broke a leg, how much time I'd get off. If I broke an arm, how much time I'd get off. I wanted nothing less than being an accountant. I just wanted to stop that so bad.
I just want an answer that makes it kind of easier to handle. And it's just like, and I think having that break so early on in my life made it so that way it was easier to believe it as an answer. Like it broke when people died. So that was the answer of like, death is the way out of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of see it scale and my attempt and everything else. It's just weird to kind of grasp all of it and kind of look at it. And even with things like that, it's like, okay, no, that's how humans' minds work. The fact that I have ADHD recycles the fucking thought over and over and over again. And if you don't have that accommodated for it, becomes a fucking cycle.
What med
Yeah,
did they
that's
give
what I
you?
thought.
So I was put on Adderall, and
Oh.
it took a little bit, and then I was also put on a anti-anxiety medication for my PTSD from my abuse from my father.
You feel like
So-
the Adderall is the one that impacted the suicidal ideations?
Yes, it absolutely 1-to-1 did. So they originally gave me they gave me Zoloft as well with the Adderall at first. And the Zoloft took away every emotion I had. Like it made me just gray. It made me just calm, made me just level-headed. I couldn't be excited. I couldn't be happy. I was dealing with some of the hardest shit in my life, and I couldn't have any emotion towards it. It was all blocked. So I was like, I'm not fucking taking this. This is not okay. And then I was just on Adderall for about 2.5 years. And I self-cycle myself. Like I take a week off of it, or I take it 2-3 times a week, just kind of clear it. So that way I'm not addicted. I don't have any of the side effects or anything like that. And I've relieved all of those symptoms.
That's
Did you
really
struggle with the
interesting.
shortage? It seemed like there's an Adderall shortage 6-9 months ago.
There still is. So I have the script for 30 milligrams once a day, and we had to change it to 2 15s once a day instead.
Okay.
So it's just availability of which
I follow
milligram.
now. Yeah.
Because I guess people are on the really, really small one, so 5s and 10s, or people are on the really, really high one, which is 30 and 60. So people don't dispense 15s because it's obnoxious and,
I'm just thinking about how interesting that cure is, because if someone's like talking about suicide, then it's like, oh, just put them on an SSRI or give them antidepressants or something, where it's like, wait a second, it's undiagnosed ADHD. You might be able to get off of that with some Adderall.
But it's a much easier, like, think about it chemically, right? So you have serotonin and fucking hell, of course, it's going to hit right at that time when I need to fucking figure out exactly what I'm talking about. Those two chemicals in your mind control the availability for depression. So do you make it so that way you are happy with SSRIs, so that way you have the same amount of serotonin all the time? Or do you inhibit yourself so that way you have more of an uptake with things like Adderall, which is an upper, and will bring you up to the level that you could be sometimes? Which way is it? And if you have ADHD, the upper itself makes you more common level headed, which is the same exact thing, but you're not making it so that way it's mellowing you out and you're not cutting out the bottom of everything. It's weird.
Well,
And
also
I
just like
remember
the fixation, being able to get off that, where it's like, oh, it's always an option kind of thing. I think the Adderall would be very powerful on that.
No, it was. It really genuinely was. It literally turned that entire chapter of my life off.
Crazy.
And it I know that's a weird way to kind of word it, but it just like literally just turned it off. And it's kind of odd. I don't understand why it did that, unless it was just the fact that it's always there and it's such a chemical imbalance within you not to have that dopamine. See, look, ADHD, get it back at some point. Where you're not mellowing out that level of dopamine and serotonin, that you're not kind of just inhibiting how much you can have. You've then learned how to develop it and everything else, and then you're kind of not pushing yourself down like SSRIs do. So I'm really fucking excited about this TV show. And I know Woody's been questioning shit about this brand for a little bit. He's made jokes in a couple episodes of PKA now about Harry Potter that you keep bringing up, and you're like, Harry Potter this and Harry Potter that. I'm really fucking excited about this TV show, and I can't fucking watch TV half the damn time. I'm actually excited for this thing.
To be clear, if I make fun of Harry Potter, it's likely because Kyle loves it so much.
Yes.
I'm just poking at him. I rewatched.
No,
I watched. I think all the Harry Potter movies with my wife recently, and she is a subject matter expert. She's read all the books. She's watched all the movies. I don't know how many times. It was kind of cool because she would pause it and explain to me, like, I don't think you get. Just in case you don't realize just how big a sacrifice the Weasley family is making by putting Harry there and the risks they're taking. I was like, yeah, I didn't know. I thought he was just borrowing a bed. But yeah. So I watched it. I like Harry Potter. It was good.
Oh, I love it. I have a Harry Potter tattoo. I don't know if it comes across the camera properly. I have the dark mark on my wrist.
So Harry Potter was a fighting badass, right? That was We're all three at the end of the movie anyway. And what is it? The eighth movie? There's like 7 books, but 8 movies.
Yeah.
Ron and Hermione were just like wrecking house. Like every bad guy was falling by their feet. Is that how it is in the books? Is that the canon? Are they
In both of them? They really kind of don't. So if you pay attention in the last movie, in the like montage that they have after Harry dies, you'll see them all of a sudden defeat quite a few of them because, you know, they see Harry jump up and the Death Eaters kind of, their hearts aren't in it anymore. They just watched him beat death twice. How does somebody beat death once? They question then, and all of a sudden Voldemort fell then. The second time, how are they going to stand behind him again? There's not going to be as much heart behind it. But you see a lot of people fall in that fight as a whole. You see a lot of people fall in the fight in between 6, 7, and 8. There's quite a few people. You have Dumbledore who dies in 6. You have Dobby who dies in 7, and then everybody dies in 8. Like there's a lot. Those 3 kind of do a lot. But without Neville, the snake doesn't die, and then Harry can't kill Voldemort. And you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of intertwined things there.
Is Dobby powerful or not? Kyle says Dobby's not that big a deal. My wife said he is pretty strong. What's the score with Dobby?
He's interesting. So if you watch the movies, he's kind of just like, oh yeah, he's there and he does things. He directly disconnected Harry from the outside world, trying to make it so he didn't go back to Hogwarts because he knew what Lucius was going to do in the Chamber of Secrets. He knew that he was going to push Ginny Weasley into doing the Chamber of Secrets, and he didn't want Harry there because Harry could die. And he knew that it was right to protect Harry Potter. I don't necessarily know why he was so morally good in that aspect, because you see Creature, who's also a house elf, and he's a douchebag. He's the stuck up one from
Dobby
the
had
Black
power
family.
when nobody else did in that basement thing.
So elf magic is different than normal magic. Just like in Lord of the Rings and stuff, from what I remember, all of them kind of have different powers in different situations and stuff like that. House elf magic, once they're free, is like all of a sudden they can do whatever the fuck they please. And that's why he was able to do magic in Hogwarts when, you know, you're not able to.
I like Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings magic is bullshit. Like they would get butt fucked by a mediocre Harry Potter witch. What does he do? Light his staff so they can see in the dark, and that's a big deal. He has some fireworks. Well, what's the most impressive magical feat in Lord of the Rings?
I have no fucking idea.
Right? It's not much.
The "You shall not pass" is just like he tapped a bridge and made an old bridge crumble a little bit.
Did he make the bridge crumble? I guess you're right.
Like that's magic, just like a little.
I thought
maybe?
the weight of the Balrog made the bridge crumble, but I might be reading the room wrong. I'm not sure. But in any case, I don't remember lots of great magical feats. Taylor says that that makes the story better. Taylor would argue that if there's really good magic, then it creates some, I don't know, really convenient storytelling. Like, oh, we just happen to have a speech here for.
Oh yeah, I have my death spell. Never mind, I got it.
Right,
but...
I've got a spell that makes flowers bloom. How handy, or whatever.
But this is the level of storytelling in Harry Potter that I love. If you watch the 6th movie, Harry learns a spell from the potion book from the Half-Blood Prince, which ends up being Snape, and it's Sectum Sempra. It's a spell Snape created. He's the only one that knows the fix to it. And you might be like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand. It slashes them and it cuts them all to pieces and they bleed out. It's essentially, you know, the level under the death spell. They're going to die. Harry uses it on a mouthway and he almost dies. Snape saves him. And at the end of the movie, big reveal, Harry tries to use Sectum Sempra on Snape himself. And he's like, you dare use my spell against me, you little bitch. Fuck you. I am the Half-Blood Prince. Now, that's my favorite movie of the entire series. This is number 6. The movie nobody fucking likes, but I think it's hilarious. And a little feature that most people don't understand is Lupin, the werewolf on the good guy's side. He has slashes all across his face. He went to school with Snape. He turns into a werewolf. He goes into the Shrieking Shack and turns into a werewolf. That's why the Whomping Willow covered the passage to the Shrieking Shack. That's where Lupin was put by the teachers, so that way he could still attend school. But when he was a werewolf, he protected people. It protected them. They couldn't be affected by it. It's said that the cuts across his face, and if you look at the actor's face in the movie, he has scars all across his face. If you're a werewolf, are you going to scratch your face? It seems like he developed a spell for his enemies, and you see it in the book. It says spell for enemies, and he developed the fix so that way he could show him, don't fuck with me. And he has scars now all over his face, the same way Mouthway does at the end of the movies.
That's cool. She's one of the few J.K. Rowling self-made female billionaires that I can think of. Like off the top of my head, her, Oprah,
And
what other women?
Jenner?
Caitlyn Jenner?
No, Kylie Jenner did it with like cosmetics and shit.
Oh,
Didn't she?
yes. All right.
Taylor
For some
Swift?
reason, I went to her mom, dad.
Her mom, dad that committed murder and got away with it by being a mom, dad. I'm still really confused by that. I don't understand.
Yeah. You can't blame Caitlyn for what Bruce did. That'd be cruel.
I wish that's how the world worked.
That's kind of how the world works.
Have you not been watching? That's how it worked.
So go to the Social Security office, change your name legally, and all of a sudden you can't be blamed for the stuff you did.
You're good to go. Yeah.
Dead name.
So yeah, that's 3 female billionaires, but the list is not long. Self-made
Taylor
female
Swift?
billionaires. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
But the interesting thing about JK, and I don't know how truthful this is she
Oh, here
started
comes
in
the dog.
welfare.
She
When
was
she
on
started-
welfare.
Yeah, when she started writing the books and stuff, she was on welfare and drug herself up from that, which that to me over Kylie Jenner is more impressive. If that's true, who the fuck knows? You know,
Right.
this is- But yeah, that shit was always interesting to me, where it's like, okay, you drug yourself up from the absolute bottom of fuck all, and you were able to kind of make yourself into something.
She's talented. I guess water finds its level.
And I think that's kind of the base for everything. Like there are people that are not able to do the things that you do, or the things that I do, or the things that Verlis does, and they kind of just squander. Whether their parents made $150,000 a year or not, they will find where they are supposed to be, and that to me is weird. Like I remember making a comment in the chat one day. Yeah, well, you know, I had great grandparents that signed the Declaration of Independence, and you're like, well, where did you make it? I'm like, no, I'm coming up from the bottom here. Like, and that to me is interesting because it's like, it does kind of find its level. Everybody kind of finds their level. Even if you started at the bottom, you'll drag yourself up, or you will fall to the bottom if you kind of fuck up.
And what that level is not that easy to determine. I don't know. I was thinking about IQ the other day, right? I read this book called The Bell Curve a long time ago. Are you familiar with this book at all?
Not familiar with the
No.
book. I'm just familiar with IQ. I find all the stuff fascinating. Ever since Jordan Peterson did that talk where he's just like, oh, if you have an IQ under 86, you can't be taught anything. 10% of the population. I was like, ooh.
That's a lot. Yeah, so the bell curve argued that IQ was this very important, very deterministic stat. And he's saying it doesn't matter what you do, IQ is essential to it, right? Because it's obvious how, like, I don't know, a computer programmer or maybe a CEO would benefit from having a high IQ. But, you know, you look at a job like waitress, and he argues in his book, clearly a high IQ waitress will do a better job. She will, you know, just look a step ahead and figure out how to bundle her tasks into fewer steps and do the job better. And you might just think about how you put your dishes away, right? Someone who just does it in fewer footsteps than the other person might be employing a higher IQ. Whereas, you know, some silly head who makes 10,000 trips all over to get the dishes put away is not as good at it. But I backed away from that line of thinking. I'm like, man, IQ is like a little piece of this. Like there's a sort of work ethic and determination that matters just as much as IQ. Maybe you've seen that in like academic success. Right? And who does well? Is it the people who just naturally get it easily? That's one group of people that do well.
I struggled really fucking hard.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't do well.
I was tested in kindergarten and again in 3rd or 4th grade. and they found me as profoundly gifted, which if you Google the term, it's like 140 to 165 or somewhere in there. And I was like, Mom, why didn't you actually tell me this was a thing instead of just kind of saying like that's what they termed me as?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like I would have had an ego enough to know that I was intelligent and have that courage to do the thing instead of feeling like it just was easy. I didn't care. It's weird because it seems like when you challenge people that have a high IQ, whether that's autistic people, ADHD people, or just people that kind of fall in there without those things, when they're challenged to do those things, they will excel always. It's very, very straightforward. It's very honest. If you challenge them and they're able to kind of find the game of it, they excel. But if they do not care, if they cannot find the challenge in life, they fall all the way to I don't give a fuck about anything. And then you end up with a whole bunch of Discord mods that have no idea what the fuck life is, and they don't do anything other than play D&D.
So you think that's an environment that ruined them, right? I hear you arguing that they have the right hardware, they just didn't get groomed in the right way to meet their potential.
Yeah, and it seems like IQ is more potential, and EQ and environment are the things that kind of impact it and dictate what you're going to do with it. Like you are very, very high IQ, very well efficient, and like you do the things that you need to do. And from the things that you've taught me, you're like you streamline things the same way I do. Like do this, this, and this. It's easy, move forward. And that's exactly how those people kind of see things. And if you look at those things, that's how the people with high IQ do things. They will find the way to streamline it and turn off their brain. So how do you keep them challenged? You have to keep changing, you have to keep reinventing, and they will then find their calm again. If you don't teach your kid how to do that, and I struggled in high school, I struggled in middle school, I didn't really succeed until I had a kid. Like, that's weird. You know what I'm saying? That's not how life is supposed to be. That's not how calm is supposed to be found. It's not supposed to be, have a kid and make life chaos to find calm.
I had a question about the kid earlier. You mentioned the writing the letter to the kid and how you love the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Did you love your kid before it was born?
So this is where it gets weird. Okay. And I think we had this conversation on the podcast a couple weeks ago, slightly different, but I think we had a similar conversation. But so the first one changed me drastically. Mm-hmm. So I looked at her as I wanted somebody who was going to love me no matter what. At 15, it's a weird way.
You thought a daughter would do that? Okay.
Well, kid as a whole, she ended up being a daughter, and I love her to death. She's still playing on her phone, actually.
Okay.
But as a whole, like, it changed me slightly. It changed my outlook on life of like driving to be able to do the thing, and it gave me incentive almost. Mm-hmm. But I didn't see the impact that everybody else did of like, oh, it's life-changing. No, I still kind of had the same drive. It was just like, now I have happiness to get up during the day. I have happiness, like, it kind of grayed out the area of like, oh, I don't want to do anything today. No,
sounds like having a dog.
I had to.
It sounds to me like you rose to the challenge of being a father.
At 15 and 16, as much as you possibly can.
Okay. Yeah. But you describe it as this happiness thing, and I'm hearing embracing the responsibility, which is not quite the same. At
18, when my son was born, it was kind of like the same.
Jesus, you're fucking fertile. Carry on.
Yeah, I know. At 18, when my son was born, it was essentially the same thing. It didn't really change me at that point. Mm-hmm. And then when my youngest was born, I felt...
Were you 18 and a half at this point?
No, I
was actually 17 then.
Yeah, exactly. I went back a year. No, when my youngest was born, it changed my entire outlook on life. And I don't know if that's connection with the surgery and her birth or what, but it was... So she was born early and she was in the NICU for about a week or so. Mm-hmm. And I struggled with that because when my brother passed, when I was a toddler, my sister was in the NICU. So I was in that NICU before I saw it. I knew how all of it worked. I kind of grasped what that meant. Mm-hmm. So like I kind of had a preconceived idea of what her going to the NICU was. So when she was born and they're like, she's not breathing the way that she's supposed to. I knew what that meant, and I was able to click in and Like I disconnected from my wife in that moment. And that to me is weird. And I don't think a lot of people realize that to the level that I did.
Mm-hmm.
I then became the person that that baby needed at that second. Like I knew that it wasn't making sure my wife got out of surgery that I did like 2-3 hours later. It was making sure that baby made it to the next moment. And I saw the change of when I stood up and stood next to that baby, how much her excitement was. Like without realizing that connection was there. And it's weird. And Verlis points this out every time I talk about her specifically. I get excited and I get like
yeah. Whenever Zach talks about his kids, he's like, "Oh, I was playing video games with my kids." Like you bring up kids and Zach, and he fucking glows.
Yeah, it's almost like being a dad was the thing that I needed to do, and telling my stories online was the way that I needed to be able to express it to help other people do the things that I have. Like it gives them. I felt like it gave them availability to see somebody not struggle because they had a kid or not run away because they had a kid. And it's like, you guys can do this. You guys can be a dad. You guys can be a person. Just because you have kids doesn't mean that you have to give everything up. But that baby fucking drastically changed my outlook on life. And I've never, like, you hear moms be like, oh, this kid's my life. No, that kid drastically changed my life. It gave me the happiness in life that I kind of didn't have. And that's where it's hard to grasp if it is the surgery and the kid or if it's just the kid.
I was asking about the timing of when you bonded to the kid, because you mentioned it was before it was even born, which I can't relate to. Was it the moment you saw the kid, before it was born, later?
With both of the first two, it was after they were born. My oldest, it was probably like 3-4 months in when she started actually showing emotion and kind of doing things. My son, I was the first words he spoke. It was dad, 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 dad. And that kind of like, always pops you a little bit. And with my youngest, it was when she was born.
Okay.
There was like a snap where it was just like, now's the time. And it wasn't even conscious. It was completely subconscious. Didn't even have a thought. Like we were told specifically, oh, there might be problems because my wife had gallbladder problems. And they're like, she might die. She might have to die to make this okay. And I'm like, I don't necessarily know exactly how to handle this. Do I prioritize one over the other? Because that's not okay. Where as a dad or a husband am I supposed to be? And I don't know the correct answer in that at all.
In hindsight, easy choice, right?
Yeah. yeah. No, kid, 100%. No, it's weird. It's weird because, like, regardless of the problems that we've had since, it's like that's still a toss up. How do you make that choice as an adult? Like, do you choose your kid that's questionable? You don't know what they're going to turn out to be, or if they're even going to be healthy, or do you choose the person that could be toxic and kind of drug you out of the dirt? It's weird. And it's kind of hard.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to look at.
I've had that thought process before, and it's always like, "Can you take me? I'll jump on this sword. I don't give a fuck." Like
that's how I saw my neck. Was like, if somebody's going to get hurt, if somebody's going to die, let it be me because I've already been there. I've already played out every single way I could die. I've already done it. I've already done the mental work. Just let me do it. It's okay. Yeah. Let them be safe. And I think that kind of resorts back to neither one of us kind of believing in something, but also kind of hoping there is. Like, oh, I've already thought about death. It's okay. Take me. Okay. So why am I thinking this way? And I don't know. It could just be my kind of mental state at this point. But it's like, obviously, if I'm saying, okay, why couldn't it be me? Then there's something that dictates it. And it's not just health. Luck, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
What was that, Woody, when he said, "Oh, like maybe something after you went"?
Yeah, no. So here's the thing: like, when I was younger, I guess I was agnostic, right? This idea of like, I don't think there's a God, but maybe I'm on the edge. It could be.
Sounds cool if it's out there.
Yeah, prove it. And then I was like, I think I'm just saying agnostic because it's more palatable. I think I was just like holding on to like people don't want to hear atheist. But if you say agnostic, they're like, oh, so there's a chance, right?
Yeah, he could he has salvation potential.
Right? But I was like, I think I'm just lying. I haven't seen any evidence of this. And if it was anything else in my universe, I'd demand a higher level of proof than nothing. You know, for something so monumental to be true, you know, prove it a little bit. It's something that can't be easily explained away by something else. And you know, if you tell me my car is stuttering because it's low on gas, I'm like, might be gremlins. You don't know that it's not gremlins. There could be gremlins in the fuel tank, pinching the fuel lines. It'd be like, you know, you're gonna have to prove the gremlin theory a little more than just might be, right? There's no evidence of this whatsoever, that there's mythical beings squeezing your fuel lines. That's kind of how I feel about most of the God explanations. Like, oh, he finally met the girl of his dreams. Tell me there's no God. Like, there's plenty of explanations for that aside from God. And I felt like I was just sort of clinging to the agnostic thing to please other people, and I let that go. So what do I think is after death? I think nothing. I think it's just kind of an egoless story ends type thing, but I'm okay with it.
Did your parents push it toward you? Like you had to believe, therefore you kind of had to keep going? Like, I know you
consider that to be one of their great regrets, that they didn't like indoctrinate me in religion more. So when they raised me, my parents were pretty much not that religious. They didn't want to go to church. They didn't think much of church. They were pro-choice. And then after I grew up and left the house, you know, when they were in, I don't know, 60s or something, that's when they really, really found religion in a very huge way. Like, it's the center of my parents' life, their social life, their, like, I can hardly emphasize it. My father goes to Bible study 3 times a week. And
that's dedicated. Yeah.
That was like that.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. He like, somehow he consults God with every decision, you know, like I swear he bounces ideas off him while grocery shopping. Like, it's everything to this guy. And
those people, have you seen the crazier ones that are like, oh, the monster logo is demon or 666, and they're
yes,
like,
I'm
oh,
related
look,
to these
there's
people.
A cross in this circle.
Like, yeah, you know, they'll be like, shucks, they see the mark of the beast in Obama fiscal policy, like, you know, shit like that.
My mom did that because Pokemon in the 90s is like, I was looking at a cloud and I saw Pikachu's face and it turned into the devil, so you gotta stop playing Pokemon.
Right?
Like, oh, that's gonna make me cool with all the kids at school.
So Harry Potter's devil. They're not allowed to do magic.
It's even not so much my mother. My mother's more like, her EQ is higher, but I can't have a phone call with my father without him expressing how disappointed he is at my lack of religion. And it's like, this is like, Dad, happy Father's Day. You know? So
I didn't need a Jesus talk right now, Dad.
always. And it's usually wrapped in some level of disappointment in how I turned out. So
hey, Dad, happy Father's Day. I'm disappointed you haven't turned to Jesus yet.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It was more like, yeah, all right, so you're 50. That's about the time I started to figure things out. You know, you're a little slow to understand how things are. You're not getting it yet, and it's like, fuck, you
really selling it though,
right? You know, it makes you want to sign up.
It's weird. Like, I had a spirit medium on here at one point.
Okay,
and I was like, okay, this guy's kind of kooky and he's out there, and I'm not religious to the point where I'm like, Christianity is the thing. I'm actually, you know, questioning much different than what I was brought up. And I didn't go to church either. So I understand where you're coming from of like questioning agnostically and like becoming atheist and not believing in anything.
I come from pure ignorance.
Me too.
Good place to be.
So, and then I had like weird experiences where I'm like, okay, I'm not psychotic and I understand I'm not psychotic. Something questionably is confusing and I don't understand. Like, I saw lights moving around in my house. I'm not schizophrenic, 100% not schizophrenic, but I thought it was funny to do this. I brought Drifter on an episode with the spirit medium because I was like,
okay,
interesting shadow people.
Oh, it was an absolute banger.
And it was fantastic. I was like, make them talk, because this seems like it would be an interesting conversation to just make happen. And it opened my eyes to questioning things of like, maybe not everything is just fact-based, because I was very similar to you. Prove it to me, prove it. And I'm like, I can't prove it to myself. And as I started questioning things became more palatable to be okay. And like we've talked behind the scenes, life is hell. I'm going through fucking hell. Why should life be okay right now? Life shouldn't be okay. Depression should be happening. Sadness should be happening. And that to me is weird. Maybe I'm just finding okay in the chaos. And, watching him explain things, and it's like, okay, you're crazy. But at some point, I'm having somebody who's seeing shadow people and somebody who's being the light to pass people on to heaven, supposedly. And they're finding commonality in between each other and they have never spoken before. That to me is weird. That to me gets odd to the point where it's like, okay, why? Why is there through lines between this and then having a conversation with Wendigoon? And why is there through lines hearing Kaylor talk about things? And it's just like, why? Why do these things line up? And it's like, I'm just going to go by rules. And I like these rules. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to live by, these kind of morality things. And it's going to be what it is.
Yeah, morality I can get on board with, but a scientific journal would never approve of your thinking here, right? Like is this
no, I don't think it's
experiment
logical at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's logical, and I don't think it's kind of. And I know it makes me sound fucking crazy because it's like, okay, there's logic here, but no, there's logic here. Why do these stories repeat? Why do these things repeat in findable ways in mass quantities towards everywhere? Like Wendigoon points to giants. Why do giants happen everywhere in every single kind of folklore story? Why are giants
really though? Isn't that a pretty unimaginative thing? People like us, but larger, like giants, okay. Or the whole idea that it keeps raining and we flood, right? Yeah. Like, oh, okay, so there are floods. We've all seen that. What if there were a super duper flood where everything got flooded? This exists across a bunch of different religions, but
scientifically, they're trying to show it right now. They've been trying to say that it was going to happen since Al Gore came out saying, oh, we're burning up the earth. You know what I'm saying? Like there's still conversations and even logical conversations that they try and repeat the same exact things that religious texts say. I am not in the know about it at all. I think it's interesting and I'm trying to learn. But it's interesting that even scientific things are trying to say the same things repeat.
I don't know. I just think about like a primitive people that doesn't have really science. Like, how did that rock get up there? And they don't understand erosion, making a boulder stand on thing. They're giants. So I think there's also the non-mythical explanation of things that's as sound. I do think there's a little bit of magic and like some weird shit in the world though. Because everyone talks about how like they have some kind of connection to their child or like, oh, mom got hurt, I'm going to call her, and it's like she was in a car accident. Like when you get those things that kind of click, it's like that doesn't have scientific backing, but that's real shit.
That's a good example.
Spirit medium said something.
I have one of those too.
So I'll say this, and then you can go into whatever you were going to say. I'm not trying to cut you off. Mm-hmm. He's like, Zach, I see somebody behind you, and this is all on camera. It's on the show, uncut. We were live streaming at the time. He's like, Zach, I see somebody behind you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Now, I've not said anything about like Revolutionary War people at this time, nothing. He's like, there's a guy that keeps coming up from behind you, turning around, pointing to his hair, and he's standing next to a horse. Like, what? Explain more. And he explains it a little bit farther, and he's like, okay. And I'm like, is it this person? And he's like, almost exactly. So in my family tree, if you go back all the way to the Revolutionary War, because he was explaining full Revolutionary War garb and he was standing next to a horse and all those things, there was a pair of brothers. Both of them signed the Declaration of Independence. One is my grandfather, one's my great-great-great-great-great-uncle or whatever the fuck. It was his brother. And he was one of the first naval officers that like ran the Navy for the United States.
And look at where he is now.
Yeah, I'm a white trash dipshit that's talking shit online about mental health. I look like a real fucking schlub, don't I? He pulled it out of nowhere. My last name's not the same. There should be nothing that he should be able to pull that out of.
No cold reading.
It's not nondescript. It's just random. How the hell does he do that? How does he pull it out of nowhere? to where it fits a description enough to fit somebody at a certain time that connects to me directly. And
Kind of
that
want to
to me is
see it
where
now.
gets weird.
See how close, like, was he like, I see someone behind you in a uniform. Who in their family tree doesn't have somebody somewhere who served in a war?
Immigrant,
Or
like that, he could have
A
been some
police
kind of immigrant.
department or
line,
fire
you
know?
department, then just see where you guide them from there. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's
Maybe
the
I did
typical
guide
way
him.
that it's done, right?
So I think I'm third generation Italian, or second even. So it's like there's no connection to the Civil War for my family. So
You
I'd
only
be
have
like a pretty good
fedoras.
guess.
And it's not even Civil War. It's Revolutionary War.
Oh, Revolutionary,
One of them,
Yeah.
and that to me was just weird. It's just like, you can't just randomly pull that out of nowhere. You can't. Like, that doesn't work. So did I pull it? I don't know. It's unexplainable to me because I can't be non-biased in this.
Yeah. It's hard to believe in God based on that, though. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no,
so
I'm just saying that made me question. It is
Mhm.
like, okay, there's a question here.
yeah. So with mine, it was the night my girlfriend broke up with me, and it was just like that. I was in love. I was like, soulmate, we're ready. I'm 20 years old. Got it. Already locked it down. So when that breakup hit, it was bad. And
You had no idea it was coming?
Nope. Yeah, it was.
Ouch.
Yeah, I try to keep the details more private. So, but yeah, it's pretty much just like caught off
How old
guard.
are you now?
31.
Oh, this was a while ago.
Yeah. Well, it was fresh, and so crazy stuff has happened, but it like hit, and I guess like that seismic activity made it from Seattle. Well, no, I was in Denver at the time, Denver to Miami, and my dad wakes up, time zone difference and all that, so he calls me at like 1 a.m, so 4 a.m. his time. He calls me up. He's like, "Bro, what happened?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What do you?" Well, I mean, like I had the breakup. I was like, "What are you calling me for?" He's like, I felt bad. I woke up in a cold sweat. My first thought was something's wrong with Tony. I was like, you wouldn't believe it. She just broke up with me. I'm crying. The cops left because they called a welfare check on me. Like, I didn't need it, but that was kind of like the play. They're like, oh, we're going to break up with him and we're bringing the cops over just to make sure he doesn't snap. But I passed the welfare check and everything was good there. I was like, yeah, cops just left. Even the police, the guy that came over, he was like, just leave, dude, because they're going to call again, and then everyone's going downtown, and it's 3 against 1, so it's not looking good. You got to get out. And then my dad just said, you got to get out.
Wait, get out? Like were you
just
sharing an apartment? Or
yeah, we were. It was 4 of us living in a house.
Oh, okay. And they
my
were
name wasn't on the
suggesting you that you moved out.
Yeah, like just leave because it's not going to go well no matter what. My name wasn't on the lease, so I got out scot-free. But yeah, and then my dad said the same. He's like, just come home, like as fast as you can. You need to come home. And it was just weird because it's like the second everything just kind of like collapsed and then was starting to come back, I was like, all right, taking this in. I'm unpacking. I'm sad and miserable. And then my dad calls and he's like, I felt it. It's like, what the fuck?
Wow.
That's just that kind of like weird stuff where it's like, that doesn't explain God, but there's something else out there.
There's some, yeah. I that one I do buy. It's never happened to me. I don't have a personal experience like yours. But man, how many times have you heard stories where people call out of the blue that don't call every day and say, I got a vibe. You all right?
The spirit medium
like, no.
explained something similar to that. He said, when you're driving down the road and you want to pass the car that's in front of you because they're driving like a dipshit and they're driving too slow or driving like an asshole and you just want to get past them. And you go to pull out or you go a little bit farther and you realize there was a car there and you would have hit and you questioned it. That's your spirit guide telling you not to. And I'm like, right.
That's harder for me to buy into.
But then also people say like, oh, I was going across the street. I heard someone call my name. I looked back, there was no one there, and someone blew a traffic light. And it's dozens of those stories.
It's like something that's tangible, and you're connecting it to something that's illogical, and that's hard to fucking believe. But at the same time, there is something within you that tells you not to do that thing or to do something that you have to do. And that to me gets weird. Like there's part of you that tells you to pass the car or not pass the car, whether or not you want to, you think to, and then something pulls you back and all of a sudden you see that you would have hit a car. There's something within you that like is your instinct not to do that. And that to me is where it kind of gets questionable. So I understand where he's coming from, but I don't think he's the right answer. But it makes the question, and that's the hard part to answer.
When a complete loon has like a 10% hit, I'm like, wait a second, this makes sense now. It's like, he's not all crazy.
And that's the hard part. It's like the religious dipshit that's saying that he's the fucking light and he's the person that crosses people over. Fucking crazy. I don't fucking understand. But at the same time, why is he hitting right now? I don't fucking get it.
Uh,
Oh, I was hoping Woody did have a story where it's like, oh yeah, tragedy struck and I felt it. Because that would have been like, that would have brought it together. But dang, yeah, I can understand why you're just like, nah, atheist.
yeah. Yeah, no, I would tell you if I had one like that. I don't. I've never had a voice. I've needed them from time to time. I got into a
Damn
car
it.
accident when I was like 20, 19, something like that. I was going to college, and it kept bouncing around in my brain how unlikely it is that our two cars met at that same spot. It was like 2 hours into the drive. You know, if I had just gone 1% slower, 1% faster, if just like for us to touch each other 2 hours into it, and at the time the car accident seemed like a really big deal, but it wasn't. Nobody was hurt. It was just stuff broken. But it sucked.
Yeah,
the
I
one
do
that's
think
al-
like in a weird way, everything happens for a reason too. Do you have any of that in you?
No,
That's fair. Like it's
have
interesting.
none.
I really like.
wish I did.
Yeah.
I want to like hit it back and join in the stories, and everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, or maybe, okay, I've told this story before. You may know it. When I was in college, they used to do this thing called chop suey, where they threw food down the stairs, right? Or you know how stairs go up a half a flight, then up a and you can see down the middle. People like spit for distance. Well, my dumb ass would drop like a jar of jelly. Okay, this was the thing a lot of people did, and when they caught me, they threw the book at me. And they're like, all right, we got it. We got the jelly dropper. And they threw me out of the dorms for 4 semesters, which seemed,
Damn.
yeah, that's a rough
Your life's
penalty.
over.
Right? That's how it felt. You know, now I don't know where to live. And I appealed it. I was like, you guys are really ridiculous on this. And I've never known anyone to argue their case worse because somehow upon appeal, they raised it to 5 semesters. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I've only done this 5 times, Your Honor. I promise.
I'm representing myself, and Jesus told me to do it.
So I was a swimmer at this school, and I talked to my coach. And I'm like, I'm in trouble. This is impacting my swimming. Can you help me? So he gets the dean to argue on my behalf, and they knock it down to the current semester that I'm already serving, plus some community service. And the community service they gave me a choice. I could like pick up trash around campus. I could clean the campus police cars, or I could watch kids in daycare. And like, I liked hanging out with kids. I was like, seriously, like that's one of the punishments for delinquents, watching people's children. I'm like, okay, you know, that's
a pretty smooth answer.
So that's what I went with. And
so when you drop the jar, you want to make sure it has this for the velocity. Angle it just right.
At the community service, there was this woman there, and she turned out to be Jackie, my wife's best friend. And she's like, hey, she tells Jackie that she should come here and check me out, that we might be a fit. And moving along, Jackie shows up. She has food. I don't even know she likes me. I think Jackie's out of my league at this point. But she brought food, and I'm like, I'm not eating well. I've never been on my own before without a cafeteria plan. So I'm having stuff like 11 servings of stovetop stuffing for dinner and calling it good. And Jackie shows up. She has like peanut butter jelly sandwiches and like genuine food. So I kept going back to her for more food. And they're interpreting that as me liking her, but I was just so hungry.
You're just a starving dog.
That's basically how I met my wife. She gave a note to this kid that I was coaching. I was a swim coach at the time, and I thought it was a joke, like because it was April Fool's Day, and I was like,
oh no,
I'm not gonna fall for this, you know. She likes me. I found out later she actually did want me to call. I did, and that was like 32 years ago. So when you do the everything happens for a reason, getting busted throwing jelly down the steps of the dorm seemed like a bad thing at the time.
How can you not think that everything happens for a reason? Something so direct like that.
But
like meeting my wife was very, very similar. My mom and her aunt were best friends. She lived an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And her uncle was my best friend. Her cousin was my sister's best friend. Like our family had ties all the way throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up together in the middle of high school. and just, randomly meeting because our families were connected and we were together for 15 years in August.
I don't know. These things don't feel like, every outcome is going to be the result of a million different possibilities. So the thought that this particular outcome is divine intervention, when
I don't think it's divine intervention. I'm saying like there's
depend
connections.
on
woo-woo
all
out
the
there.
outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It seems like everything's possible. And when you make anything possible, it's weird when things are the random shot in the dark that could be, oh, well, this would have never happened if this one little thing didn't affect. It's
also,
not.
it's like the thing that isn't your, like, I didn't influence this. Some outside force put me down that path, and then the outcome happens. Like, oh, wait a second. Like, it's not like I created this.
I've got my mind spinning on this personality trait of mine, a difference between my wife and I. My wife, let's say she ate something and then her stomach is upset. She'll say, okay, cause and effect, right? I did that and I did that. Like, well, how do you know? How do you know for sure that was the thing? There were 4 things on that plate. How do you know it was a bad avocado when it could have been a bad something else or what? I don't know. Maybe it was the meal before that and it was a delayed effect. For me, if it's like, oh, I ate this and I got sick, I'm like, all right, this needs to be a reproducible result. I need to eat that again and see if I get sick again. If I can do this 2 or 3 times, now I know that's the cause and effect. Now we removed all the others. Every experiment seems to have multiple variables sometimes. And I'm like, I just need to know, like, we need to test one variable at a time for a repeatable experiment. That kind of thought process that I apply to everything is probably why it's harder for me to be a believer. It's like, I need
Because you look at
indisputable,
everything with
repeatable results.
logic, and you want to hold everything to that level of it has to be believable and breakable in every single way. Like if you think about it in like the terms of COD, you're going to break the part of a game doing this specific thing, jumping in this specific window. There will be a person right there 80% of the time.
Mhm.
You want life to be like that for it to be provable that there could be something, instead of the question being, okay, anything is possible, because that person's not always going to be in the window. You want to take it as in the logic says that they're in the window. I jump through this window. They don't see me. I shoot them. Instead of anything being possible, they could be in the corner waiting. It's kind of like a logic puzzle that you want to hold everything to, and it's kind of odd.
I think Woody's outlook is cool, though. Like the way that it's
good.
like, yep, it makes sense. And I'm not disappointed. I'm not like, Woody doesn't believe in the woo-woo, man. I don't like him anymore.
No, I'm the same way. And it's hard because I think of things in a very similar way of I just want proof. I want proof that there's something. And it's like questioning it feels weird. I put a Google Docs link in the
those
chat
are
for you. But
Zach's trauma stories.
yeah.
Oh, goodness. I get to pick one?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what does the color coding mean?
The color coding means I've told it before.
Okay.
And number 1 is saved for the time that hopefully the dream thing happens and I get on PK. Or you can hear it now.
Okay.
It's up to you.
All right.
Yeah. That's what I've held, and it is your availability. If you want it, you can have it. If you want to wait for the possibility, you can save it. It's up to you.
This is an easy choice. Public sex as a teen. Give it to me.
Okay, let me see.
I can give you the number if you want. 54.
Yeah, I have to look at what it's around because I have to see if I'm talking about somebody else or myself. Okay. So this was in 8th grade, and you're going to tell me that I'm full of shit, and it's okay.
In 8th grade?
Yes, I lost it.
That's
in 8th
about when I
grade.
touched my first boobie. You fucking stud. Carry on.
Whoa. You guys getting way too much action way too early. Wait until 11th grade like everyone else.
11th grade? I had a kid in 11th grade. Fucking hell. So 8th grade was one of the hardest fucking times in my life. And not because I was getting laid at the time.
Right. I was only getting laid 5 times a week. It was rough.
Yeah. She was only allowed to spend the night on the weekends, guys. Do you believe that? Fucking hell. Sometimes I had to go over to the religious girl's house.
Risky.
So, yeah. You had to be under blankets and hope that her mom didn't look.
Just playing the Game Boy. Pokemon's under there.
Oh no, it was weird. Her religious mom was getting fingered in the kitchen, and it was a big fucking thing. The entire situation was fucked up. But that's where it got weird. So as a whole, we started exploring, as you know, all 14, 15-year-olds do, and kind of just doing shit. And that is where that conversation is going to stop. Everything from here on is 18 plus because I'm not going to be a fucking weirdo. So
Can't get Doctor disrespected now.
yep, nope. I was below the age. Let's have an actual conversation.
Oh, now you're editing the tweet midstream.
Yes, exactly. Fuck off. So I struggled with, everything becoming that. I think as every guy does, every joke becomes sex, everything becomes sex always. And it's kind of hard to disconnect your mind from. And before I got into this relationship, I was suspended from middle school for a full entire month of February between fighting and gang relations.
Good gosh.
Yeah, I was punched on my birthday, and then we came back to school the next week. I got into a fist fight where I was jumped. I broke the dude's eye socket and was suspended for a week because they didn't find the knife that was in my pocket. Now he's one of my friends and a cool guy. He says that I won the fight by being jumped because I broke his eye socket. So I guess I won. And then I developed a gang and was suspended because I wrote on my arm showcasing the gang on my wrist because, gangs.
Did you name your gang?
It was CKC, the Cool Kids Club, because I thought it was edgy changing, into CKC. I'm sure you can put this, Woody.
I'm not getting it.
Okay.
I was very edgy and thought it was funny. But yeah, so that happened. And then I developed, the ability to have sex with a very religious girl. And that got very, very odd. So I went from a bad kid to dating a religious girl. And all of a sudden I had to put all of the pieces together. She thought that being naked randomly was fun. So while I was suspended from school in the back of the late bus, she thought it was fun to randomly do things and everything else. Then the end of the year trip happens and we go to Great Escape and we go ride roller coasters for the first time, which was my first ever time riding a roller coaster that wasn't inside. I don't know about how many people remember all these places that amusement parks inside where you would go to like an arcade, like a Dave and Buster's, and they would have one roller coaster or bumper cars and stuff. So I used to ride that roller coaster all the time, but that's like nothing. So we went to Great Escape and rode roller coasters for the first time. Then we get on the bus and everybody's fucking exhausted. Half of the bus falls asleep and we're like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from home. And I fall asleep. And all of a sudden I feel my pants get pulled down on a school field trip. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm getting blown in the back of a fucking school charter bus. And I'm like, what the fuck? My girlfriend, religious as hell, doing this in front of everybody.
Does anyone? No one's looking though. She sort of made sure the coast was clear.
She fell asleep in my lap with a blanket, with a hoodie over top of her. But still, why the fuck
was
is this
exhausted?
happening? Yeah, she was exhausted. But that fucking warped my mind of like, oh, this happens all the time. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Because this shouldn't happen. Why the fuck is this happening? So then a whole bunch of things happen. She ends up cheating on me with some other dude that was my best friend for a long fucking time. Like I knew this kid since before I moved into the school district. We went camping together. He was one of a family friend's son. And I went off. I was like, nope, I'm fucking done. It's weird because this girl, I handed the knife that I cut my wrist with, that I attempted with. I was like, here, take this. And when I broke up with her, she's like, I no longer need this, and handed it back. And I'm like, that's fucked up. That's fucked up. You did that on purpose. So yeah, that bitch, did shit in public, and that was fucking weird.
Is this the woman you married?
No, that was my first like actual full-on girlfriend that I had things with. My wife happened 3 years later. So that was 8th grade. Me and my wife got together in between 10th and 11th grade.
Do you know what happened to this girl? The bus girl?
She ended up still being extremely religious. And as far as I know, so our road gets really weird. So her brother said that I did things, which I never did forcibly. And then.
Oh, to her. He
Yes.
spread rumors about, okay.
She became obsessed with me after I broke everything off in 9th and 10th grade. And we were lab partners in 10th grade. And I wanted to know why she said those things. She never did. I had a lawyer against the entire thing. They went out to school. There was a big fucking thing.
So she never spread those rumors. It was all her brother's creation.
But it came to me in a dream one time. And this is where the logic that you have and I have, where it kind of starts clicking and things kind of just come into place where it's like, okay, that's the most logical answer. I dreamed I had a kid when I went into high school. And I'm like, wait, why the fuck did that happen? And this was after my son was born, after I was already out of high school. And I messaged her, I was like, were you pregnant? And she's like, what are you talking about? Am I pregnant? I was like, no, I'm not asking if you're currently pregnant. And my wife found out that I said anything, and she's like, and she went off the deep end because I'm not supposed to be talking to my ex-girlfriend. It's unacceptable. I feel like that question came out in a religious family because a pill was needed, not because there was a problem. And I wanted to ask the question and I couldn't get it out because I couldn't have the guts to ask. And it's like the brother wanted to be nasty and repulsive about it because there was a question of her having to take a pill.
I see. So she took
some sort
why
of
else
would that have
pill.
happened if it's like, why else would that have happened if Zach wasn't forceful?
I wonder if she said that to make herself seem like a victim instead of a willing.
That
especially
was my
in a religious
exact
family.
Process. Yes. So I had.
But this is all a guess, right? This isn't confirmed.
So she never said it publicly. And we had that conversation when we were still in high school. And that hurt because, at 9th and 10th grade, you don't want to fucking deal with that accusation at all. You become the piece of shit, and deservedly so. You're a piece of shit if you do that shit ever. But this girl clung to me. Like I was the person for her for a very, very long time. Even when she was in other relationships, I was still in the friend circle. It was still me and stuff like that. And that's where it got weird because it's like, this isn't normal.
Did you ever get back together with her?
No.
She was there with her door open to you seemingly for years and you never walked through.
She messaged the girl who ended up being my wife, I will do anything to get Zach back. That's who I want to be with in 10th grade when we first got together.
How awesome were you in eighth
I
grade?
was not awesome at all. I was a piece of shit.
I'm more awesome than me, apparently. I was lucky to have a girlfriend at all. I had one a year.
Yeah, I would just have not girlfriends for the school dances because I just I had the balls to ask them out and they had the pity to say yes, and then nothing happened after that.
I was just the very, very loud.
I rolled with it. I was like, yo, I'm the stud. Let's go. I get a hug. I get a hug for $5 entry and some pizza.
I had the opposite experience at the school dance. This was 6th grade, but I showed up without a girlfriend. I picked up a girl at the dance. Now I have a girlfriend. But when I saw her in the light, because I'd only seen her in the dark, I didn't want a girlfriend anymore. She was too ugly.
And
it's, and looking back at the things that happened in the past few years, it's like, okay, why do these things happen? It's so weird because that dream happened when I had no connection to her. I wasn't talking to her at all. And it's like, okay, why am I having this dream right now that I had a different kid at a different point and everything else? Is that a different life path that I could have had? Is that my mind thinking of different choices I could have had, putting myself in that position instead of this one? Or did something happen and that I'm putting the pieces together subconsciously? And that's where that kind of weird kind of mindset gets to, of logic and trying to just find comfort in everything.
Don't know. We also don't even know if this is real. This is just
it's all
something out
subconscious.
years later, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you look at things as an adult, even at 20, you kind of put more logic to things and they kind of make a little more sense. And you see from a third person perspective instead of just so face value of, oh, life is chaos.
How are you getting all these girls in school?
But he's still on that. I love it.
Like this is I can't relate
In
to
ninth
this.
grade, I dated an 18-year-old whose mom consistently told her that she was going to get statutory raped charges against her constantly.
Hard
What?
G right there.
Yeah. You're going to get charges if you keep dating this kid. I was 15 dating an 18-year-old. Not allowed to do that. That's a funny story, though.
You are in New
fuck it.
Jersey.
I'm in New York, not New Jersey.
Okay.
But so I was dating that girl, and
Which number is that
We
on
had
the list? Got to cross it off.
we had a one night stand. I don't know. I think this is maybe one different story. Should be around there. No, not sure.
Wow, Woody, you're special getting the twofer.
Nice.
Fuck it. So this girl, she was like the stereotypical goth scene chick, if you know that kind of stereotype. Would wear tutus to school and black leggings underneath of them, and
Hot Topic employee.
yes,
Yes,
would wear the
perfect.
jelly bracelets, and that's where this came in. So
Yo, those fucking slap though.
yeah, they were cool. So
Slap bracelets or something different.
no, something different. So you remember
Well,
how
I mean-
you used to talk about the stereotypical
We all know what we're talking
rainbow
about.
and all of that shit. Like the stereotypical rainbow party. Oh, they try and paint a rainbow on your dick.
That's not real.
No, they did.
This
the
is
same
your
thing with
childhood?
jelly bracelets.
Okay.
Like each bracelet had a meaning of what they would do. They were like,
What?
That's
they had
also
the I
just a
love booby
rumor.
bracelets.
You
No,
just wear the
no.
colors because they're neat. They don't mean anything.
No, they did mean things supposedly. And I broke a black one, which was have sex. And I was like, okay, this is cool. It is what it is. Whatever fucking happens, happens. So me and this 18-year-old girl have sex, whatever.
Oh,
Have a
that's just the
one-night
whatever
stand.
part of the story.
Right?
No,
Good God.
that's not where the cool part happens. This is where life becomes
Oh,
Agree
weird.
to disagree.
I would say Woody would disagree right there.
No, this is where life becomes really weird and life gets really funny.
So where was
So
this on the hood of a car? Like,
No, it was in my bedroom on the couch with the door open. And that's where some things get weird. So I had a bedroom that had two doors. It was a secondary living room, and my mom kind of got me a couch and everything to kind of just like set it up as like this bachelor pad. But the rule was I was always to have one set of doors open if there was another person in the room, which, I think is weird. But
your mom's
whatever.
a bit of a voyeur, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the couch faced the door. But, shit happened.
Right.
As I said, this is not where the story gets weird. So after my oldest was born, we're at my mother-in-law's house, and me and my wife just got done having sex, and we hear at the door, like, what the fuck? Yeah, come on. And her brother had to walk through our room to get downstairs to go in the basement, which is where his room was.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks in, and there is my ex-girlfriend, the fucking Hot Topic wannabe chick, following my brother-in-law down to the basement, walking through me and my wife's room with my kid in it. And after about 5 seconds, you hear very, very girly moans. And 5 seconds later, you hear him stomp up the stairs and go back into the bathroom. And I giggled because, 5 seconds, little Iraqian little kid.
5 seconds is perfectly legit. No, nothing funny about that.
Exactly.
It means you had a good time. Like, why do people have to be so serious about it?
I walk into my mother-in-law's room. I'm like, Mom, you're not going to believe this. Not only are me and your son brother-in-laws, but he is now my Eskimo brother. And she's like, wait, are you serious? I said, yes. Yes, we are. The girl that he just walked downstairs with is the last girl before your daughter. And she's like, you're lying, right? She's 23. You're 15. She's like, this doesn't make sense. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you the truth. This happened. This happened last year. Math doesn't add up. I understand.
Why would you
whatever.
tell? Yeah, I let it go. Why would you tell your wife's mom that you boned her son?
Because I thought it was hilarious and it was completely uncomfortable.
And also, he's
I was
15.
a very, very open kid. Like I'm just, well, 16.
Like,
But
if you're how you're just changing the numbers, Gib. Yeah, if you're 16, that's
no,
like
I am
the funniest
16
shit
because
ever.
I was after kids born. It was hilarious to me that my ex-girlfriend just walked through the door with my brother-in-law. That to me is really fucking.
I gotta tell
uncomfortable.
someone.
I have to say something to somebody, and I don't have a podcast at the time. I didn't have PKA to go and talk. My YouTube channel just got deleted with thousands of views.
Why didn't you email this to Woody? His YouTube DMs.
Oh, this would have been a banger fucking Mail Monday story. Woody, what do I do? My ex-girlfriend just walked in with my brother-in-law.
Get FPS Rush on as a guest commentary, and we'll tell you to do it again.
Exactly.
Work your way through the rest of the family.
Oh, fuck. Ugh.
You must seek revenge and fuck her sister.
Ugh. But yeah, nope. I was Eskimo Brothers with my brother-in-law, and you
still are.
Check out G Fuel. Check out the merch. Check out Woody. We'll see you fucking next time.
Thanks.